Welcome back to another Dom's Roundtable Dynasty Warriors Origins Guide. Today we're going to be deep diving into all 10 weapon types currently usable in the game to help you get the most out of each weapon and fight the most effectively. I'll cover the moveset and the best ways to use each weapon along with their individual strengths so you can get straight into kicking ass and maxing them all out on your way to total completion like a true warrior. And yes, you heard correctly, there is a secret 10th weapon that you unlock when going into New Game Plus, so incredibly mild spoilers when we cover the 10th and final weapon on this list. And without further ado, let's jump into the first weapon that you start with, the sword. For the first weapon that you get, this is a very versatile and varied weapon with many different movesets. This is due to the fact that a different strong attack being performed at the end of a string of normal attacks will lead to a different finishing move. This makes it a very versatile, though somewhat complex weapon, which is great in all situations. The phrase jack of all trades, master of none fits quite well with the sword, though that isn't strictly true because it is quite a master of basically everything it tries to do. Whatever it tries to do, it usually does very well. This is a solid starting weapon and definitely one that you could consider your main if you really like it. It also has some incredibly powerful weapon-specific arts, like this one that creates about 1,000 slashes in front of you. As long as you're not staggered out of it, it can deal devastating damage and one-shot lower-level officers. This is a very nimble weapon with a really fast moveset, so it is easy to transition to and from different combos depending on what the situation requires. And when you reach a certain rank level with this weapon, you unlock the Pursuit ability, which will add an additional attack on the end of every single combo, making you incredibly fast and unpredictable. When we talk about actual use cases for the sword, in my opinion, the two best strong attack combos are after 3 and 4 normal attacks. The 3 normal attack into strong attack combo will see you perform a few horizontal sweeps at the end of the combo, which is great for clearing out large groups of enemies, whilst the 4 normal attack into strong attack combo will see you swirl up into the air before releasing a series of shock waves, and then with the Pursuit ability you will crash back down again chasing your enemy. This is fantastic for juggling officers whilst also keeping you away from danger. Overall, it's an absolutely solid weapon, quite complex for your first weapon considering there are many different movesets, and each is tailored to make light work of any particular situation. So try out all the different combos many times to really get a feel for your favourites and when you should use them, and it is very rare that the sword will fail you. The next weapon that you will unlock, as I believe these are all unlocked in a specific order, should be the spear. The description of the spear is an easy to use weapon with a wide reach, best used by combining 3 hit strong attacks with any other strong attack such as evasion, blocking and aerial attacks based on the situation. In reality, I personally feel this isn't that easy of a weapon to use. It is fantastic, but it's quite difficult to use and a bit more niche and situational than the sword. When you are dueling, this is one of the best weapons in the game. It does have a wide and long reach, meaning you can usually poke the enemy before they start poking you. And when you do get good at chaining combos into dodges and blocks, followed up by another attack, it is absolutely fantastic. But that's not the easiest thing to do as a new player, so this does have a much higher skill ceiling than the sword. Definitely one to learn and get used to though, because it's an absolute powerhouse in duels, of which you will be doing a lot of in the late game, especially against bosses. This weapon definitely isn't the best against groups. Some of its battle arts make it better, allowing you to swing it around and plow through groups of enemies, but primarily this is a dueling weapon. This is an officer and boss killing weapon. And another thing that makes it so good at what it does is an inherent spear exclusive battle art that it starts with. This art is very cheap and allows you to take a counter stance. As long as you time this well, because you'll only stay in this stance for around 5 seconds, you will automatically guaranteed parry the next attack. Obviously this doesn't work against dangerous attacks like red, orange and white, But any other attack in the game, if you adopt this counter stance, you will automatically parry the next attack, which makes duels an absolute cakewalk as long as you're good at telegraphing your opponents. I personally feel there isn't a bad weapon in this game. I'm not trying to say any weapons are better than others. I'm just giving you their specific individual strengths so you know when is best to use them. And spears, in my opinion, very good for boss rush missions. Not quite as good as certain other weapons if you need to take out thousands and thousands of enemies. Next up, we have got the Gauntlets, one of the toughest weapons in the game to use. There are, I believe, 4 different stances that you can take with the Gauntlets, depending on the action you are currently doing when you press triangle on your controller. So if you're in the middle of a dodge and you press triangle, you will adopt, I believe it's the Phoenix stance, or if you're currently in a normal attack combo, when you press triangle, you will adopt a different stance. And every single action you take, if you then press the strong attack button, you will adopt the corresponding stance. And in this stance, then pressing either the normal or strong attack buttons will see you perform a series of unique set attacks. Unleashing attacks in these stances will fill your body with energy, which will then increase the speed at which you take up another stance. This will, in theory, as the game puts it, enable you to chain a variety of attacks together in a single flowing sequence. Though that is far easier said than done. This is definitely going to be one of the weapons in the game you need to use the most to get to grips with. It feels absolutely incredible if you are able to do so, and it can absolutely wreck. Though you need to remember, whilst you are trying to string all these attacks together into a single flowing sequence, eventually enemies will just passively break out of their stun lock and they will counterattack. So don't get too carried away with going into stance after stance. Get ready for that counterattack, get ready to block, because you don't want to be broken out of your stance and knocked on your ass. The Gauntlets are very much an offensive weapon, but try not to forget about your defense when you're trying to maximize your damage. Next up, we will look at the wheels. The wheels you can throw to hit distant enemies. They are, I believe, the only ranged weapon in the game because you don't get the fan. And pressing the strong attack button just as your wheels come back to you will significantly strengthen your next strike and will see you instantly perform a follow-up action that does tremendous amounts of damage. This mechanic is really powerful, and it will allow you to juggle and string together lots and lots of attacks, dealing significantly increased damage to your primary target whilst also dealing AoE damage to everything around you. Being able to hit from a distance, chain attacks, strengthen your strikes, this all sounds absolutely fantastic in theory. The only problem is I'm guessing the game developers looked at this and thought, well, the wheels inherently have a ranged attack as their normal attack, unlike every other weapon in the game. Also, they can easily hit everything around them, so we need to make sure they're not too overpowered, and we're going to nerf the damage. The wheels damage is quite lackluster in my opinion compared to every other weapon on this list. It's a really cool gimmick, and every weapon on this list can easily carry you to victory in every single difficulty if you get good with them, but they are definitely one of my least favorites. And apart from this gimmick of pressing strong attack just as your wheels return to you to strengthen the power of your next attack, that's all they have. That is literally the only gimmick they have. Some of their battle arts are kind of cool. I really like this spinning one. It does a surprising amount of damage for how little bravery it requires. But I ended up just spamming that again and again and again because it was the only way I could kill stuff. Next up, we have got probably my favorite weapon from most entries, Jarho Dun's weapon, the Podao. He is one of my favorite characters. I think he's a complete badass, so I have always loved his sword because I just wanted to be just like him. He's so damn cool. Unfortunately, in this entry, I don't like this weapon that much. It only really has one cool thing about it, and it's so damn slow at what it does that you are frequently interrupted. So let's start with the positives. It's standard, normal 6-hit combo, really good at staggering enemies, really good at breaking poise, a lot of damage. This is really cool. This is where the weapon shines, is it's very simple. It's very simple to use while still having a really good damage output. Just keep spamming square, you are going to melt through most enemies. Its battle arts are pretty powerful as well. It's a solid, meaty, beefy weapon that doesn't require much brain power. So in that regard, I absolutely love it. That's the purpose it should serve. That's exactly what it does. Unfortunately, as you know, every weapon has a really cool, unique mechanic. And the unique mechanic for the Podao is so slow that you can rarely ever pull it off. So if you hold down the strong attack button, you will charge up your attack. The greater the charge, the stronger and more wide-ranged the attack will be. Unfortunately, when you reach first charge, which takes a while, it's not that powerful. You have to charge it all the way to the end of the second upgrade tier for it to be any good, which takes so long that on any difficulty above Wayfarer, your enemies, especially officers, are just going to knock you out of this attack. It's very hard to ever use the Podao's unique feature. So you end up just spamming normal attacks again and again and again. Which, as I say, it's good at doing. It's fine. It just gets a bit boring, and I like a more varied weapon that can do a bunch of things and looks really cool. So if you're looking for something brainless and easy to use, this is absolutely solid. It's just unfortunate that its unique ability is quite niche. Next up, we will look at the staff. This is a weapon that really surprised me with how good it is at everything that it tries to do. It's kind of like the sword in that regard. Its unique mechanic is kind of similar to the twin pikes. You'll see what I mean when I get onto the twin pikes in just a minute. So with the staff, what you do is you hold down the strong attack button and you will continuously perform strong attacks again and again and again until you release it and you slam down with one big attack. And it will do two different things depending on if you're stationary or you're moving when you do this. So if you're stationary, you'll spin the staff around in your hands, just pummeling enemies in the face, and it's really good at breaking through their guard. But my favourite way to use it is to start moving first before holding strong attack, which will see you jumping around the battlefield, spinning it around your body, just annihilating hundreds of enemies in seconds. This is probably the second quickest weapon in the game at clearing bases. It is absolutely fantastic when used this way. If you're in a big, long mission where you need to take lots of bases and increase morale very quickly, the staff is a fantastic way to do this. Just as you're walking up to a base and you're just about to get to the first group of enemies, start to hold triangle or whatever your strong attack button is, and you'll just start spinning around the base and everyone will be dead in seconds. It also has a really fun normal attack moveset. I find it to be particularly powerful considering it's just a bit of wood. Great unique battle arts as well, and on top of all of that, I'm unsure at the moment because we've only had the game for a couple of days if different weapons have different parry windows, but I just find it ridiculously easy to parry with this weapon. I rarely miss parries with the staff, which means you have so much survivability because enemies can never attack you. Overall, really solid weapon. Enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. And yeah, just a very fun weapon to use. And now to talk about the twin pikes, which work quite similarly to the staff with their unique strong attack mechanic, but you press the button instead of holding it. Again, it will do two different things depending on if you're moving or if you're stationary. And its unique mechanic is so powerful and it's so good at what it does that you rarely ever have to use normal combos if you don't want to. When you're facing groups of enemies, just run around, slashing your twin pikes in front of you. Everything is going to get melted. It does, I think, 8 hits where it's gathering up all the enemies in front of you. And then on the 9th, if you press the strong attack again, just as you end the sequence, you will do increased damage on the final blow. You will throw everyone away from you as you slash your twin peaks to the sides, sending all your enemies flying and dealing a crazy amount of damage. Or if you're against an officer, this is especially powerful in duels. Make sure you have just parried one of their attacks or staggered them in one way or another, and then just start spamming strong attack on the spot. The first attack will launch them up in the air, and then you will do 9 dual diagonal slashes, just absolutely eating through both their poise and their health bar. This completely wrecks everything. You can stun lock officers for so long and do so much damage to them in the meantime. It has a pretty solid moveset, it has really good battle arts, but honestly, if you get used to using the 2 different variations of its unique strong attack combos, you basically don't need anything else. This is a simple to use, very powerful, very effective weapon, so fun, really cool looking. I'd say literally the only downside is it is so fun to use and it is so fun to spam these combos that it can be easy to go on the offensive too hard and get caught out. So again, just like with a few of the other weapons, be cautious and get ready to block or parry or evade. Now onto the highest risk, highest reward weapon in the game, with a very, very hard to use mechanic that is absolutely fantastic when you completely understand how to use it. Young Fei's weapon, the Lance. So with this, you hold the strong attack button down to endure enemy attacks. The more damage you endure from these attacks, the more damage you will deal back to the enemy. And what is fantastic about this is any damage that you endure is not sustained as actual damage. As you'll see, your health bar just goes a slightly different color, and then as long as you're not hit, you will regain all of that health back again. And if you're against a big boss like Louis Boo, and you use Endure at the correct time, I'll talk about why it's so high risk, high reward in just a second, you will soak up all of his damage, he will do nothing to you, and then you'll release a devastating counterattack and absolutely wreck him. Now, the only problem with this is you're there wanting to endure enemy attacks, and it's very easy to just stubbornly stand there and wait until you've absorbed enough damage, because if you just keep holding it down, it will automatically release a counterattack for you once it's reached the maximum, or you can release it early for a slightly less powerful attack. The only problem with this is you can get greedy, you can get carried away with it, and then they might do a red attack or an orange attack, they'll break you out of it, they'll do loads of damage to you, and you've completely wasted your attack, which is exactly why I said it's very high risk, high reward. You need to learn and be able to cut your losses and just come out of the endure stance and just move away if you need to. Sometimes it can take a while to pull off, which makes fights a bit slower. This is definitely not a weapon to use if you need to run around the battlefield very, very quickly. Fights are a lot slower if you want to utilize this mechanic, but it makes it so easy to engage with otherwise very intimidating fights. Because as I say, you're effectively invincible while you're in this enduring stance, because all you need to do is then just run away for a few seconds, wait for your health to heal up, and boom, you've just absorbed a load of enemies' attacks, you've done a ton of damage to them, and you have not even been scratched. Next up, the penultimate weapon, the Crescent Blade, Guan Yu's weapon. Probably one of the most beloved characters and weapons in the franchise. Everybody adores this guy, everybody adores his weapon. So happy we got this as one of the base game weapons. Now, the Crescent Blade, as the game states, can be used to unleash unrelenting attacks by connecting normal attacks to strong ones and strong ones to normal ones. And this really is exactly as good as it says. You can literally just chain square, triangle, triangle, square, square, triangle, triangle, square, square, again and again and again for a never-ending combo, racking up so much damage. And then, the more you hit enemies, the more you enter a strengthened state, and you'll see your weapon starts to actually glow. And then, when you charge up a heavy attack, it will increase the range and the strength of this attack. The only problem is the Crescent Blade suffers similarly to the same negative as the Podao, in which it's very, very slow, especially to release these strengthened charged attacks. Its standard, normal and strong combos don't do anywhere near as much damage as you'd expect. You really do need that strengthened state to do the real big, heavy hitting attacks, but it's quite easy, again, especially on hero or above difficulty, to get knocked out of the attack before you're able to utilize it. So you've spent a while building up your strengthened state, and then you're just knocked on your ass before you can capitalize. It's really frustrating. It's a very hard weapon to get right. This is definitely one that's going to need a bit of practice, because you need to really get that balance perfectly right between offense and defense, so you can utilize your big, hard-hitting attacks. That being said, it's the Crescent Blade. It's such an awesome, cool weapon to use that it shouldn't be too much of a chore learning and practicing. Plus, the battle arts are absolutely sick. It's got really cool animations. Definitely lives up to Guan Yu. Very, very solid weapon. But now, on to what I always thought would become my favorite weapon in the game, the Halberd of Lu Bu himself. That is right, my friends. When you beat New Game and you progress into New Game Plus, you are able to purchase Lu Bu's Halberd from the shop. At the moment, I don't know any other way to get your hands on a Halberd other than buying it. Tell a lie, I do know one way, and that is to complete certain challenges on Ultimate Warrior mode, but that requires you to be level 80 to 90. Them challenges are absolutely ridiculous. The only way realistically you can get your hands on a Halberd early on is to buy one from the store, and it costs an absolutely insane amount of money. So if you would like to use a Halberd soon after starting New Game Plus, save up all your money from your first playthrough. I actually have an advanced tips video coming out in a day or two where I'm going to teach you the most effective money making methods along with a bunch of other awesome tips. So if you want to get your hands on a Halberd quick, make sure you check out that video too. And I only have good things to say about this weapon. It is exactly as insane as you would hope it is. Similarly to the sword, it has a different strong attack depending on the number of normal attacks leading into it. So it has at least 6 different combos of 6 different strong attacks, and you are then able to quickly go into a charge attack immediately after a strong attack. Or you can just spam the strong attack button by itself to do a string of strong attacks that are also just as insane as the normal and strong combos. Or you can hold the strong attack button down to launch yourself into the air and throw out this giant red shockwave, or you can hold it down whilst you're running around to leap towards your opponent. It has genuinely so many moves and so many combos that the only problem is learning and remembering them all. Some of the attacks, some of the combos are quite slow, so again, it's another weapon that it's easy to get caught out of position and get knocked out of your attacks. But this is definitely a weapon that it is worth learning every single attack meticulously. Practice doing normal strong, normal strong, etc, etc, and then practice holding the strong attack button down while standing still, then practice holding it down whilst moving, then practice holding it down at the end of a combo. You really genuinely need to learn every single thing about this weapon before you can utilize it effectively. At first, you will start using it, and unless you just instantly gel with it, it will feel a bit tough to use, and you might be a bit deflated. But trust me, if you really learn every single possible combo, along with the charged attack variations as well, and really ingrain them to memory, you can just wipe out the battlefield in a single combo. It's absolutely broken when you learn to use it properly. That's enough about how awesome the moveset is. I haven't even talked about the battle arts or the Musou attacks or God Rage mode yet, of which it has plenty. So the battle arts are really awesome. I actually love the one that it starts with, where you jump up in the air and then slam down. The shockwave and the explosion that it produces is so far-reaching that it will frequently hit officers that you believe are out of range. Where its real true strength comes from is its special, exclusive Musou attacks and God Rage mode. I haven't touched on Musou attacks and God Rage mode for any other weapon because they're all the same. It makes you invincible, You can spam lots of attacks, and then you do a big attack at the end of it. However, when you do this with the Halberd, your moveset and your character completely change. You adopt the traits of Lu Bu himself. You get this evil expression on your face, and you start walking slowly and menacingly around the battlefield, and the only way to move towards enemies at any kind of speed is by using your strong attack. You will very quickly lunge towards an enemy and then cause an explosion every time you strong attack, and then when you start to spam your light attack, you go into an infinite, never-ending combo, and you just spam that to your heart's content, annihilating everything in front of you. And then, for the real cherry on top, the icing on the cake, when you unleash your true Musou attack, your ultimate attack, it has the biggest range of any ability in the game and will easily wipe out 1,000 troops plus in one strike. As you see here, my kill streak just went from somewhere in the mid 1400s to over 2,500 kills in one attack. Its God Rage mode is so insanely ridiculous. And this is definitely a weapon that's going to want a very specific build built around it, focused on building up your Musou gauge as fast as possible, so you can just spam that again and again and just annihilate everyone and everything in sight. They really have done Louis Bu's weapon justice, and my god does it make you feel awesome. Anyway, my friends, that is how to most effectively use all 10 weapons currently in the game. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for more Dynasty Warriors Origins guides, along with plenty of other guides coming up for new games coming in the near future. And with that, all that's left for me to say, my friends, is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.